Test. Looks like it's working.
That's what she said.
I'm gonna pop this open real quick.
Oh, yeah. Please tell me you're recording.
I am.
Okay, good, because that was beautiful.
Let's tell the story about how it snowed the other day.
Oh my goodness. So much snow in such a little time.
Yep. I think we got like 6 or 7 inches within like 6 hours, 8 hours, however long it
I don't
was.
think it was that much. It's probably like 4 or 5.
I'm pretty, maybe, I don't know. It looked pretty deep.
Yeah.
I was going based off of what fell onto the on our back porch, the railing on our porch.
Oh yeah, there was a lot, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Early November and we already have snow.
Okay, I have some questions for you.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Okay, why is Peter Pan flying all the time?
Because he never lands.
Yeah. Okay, what does Daisy Duck say when she buys lipstick?
Quack.
Put it on my bill. Where does Captain Hook go to get his hook replaced?
Where?
The secondhand store. All right.
So Disney, huh?
Yeah, I was saying, any guesses for what we're going to talk about today?
My guess is Disney.
We're talking about the one and only Walter Elias Disney.
Woo!
So, Myles, what do you know about Walt Disney?
I'll
get this laptop open.
Does he have anything to do with Disney?
No relation, actually. No, I'm just kidding.
So he's the creator of Disney.
This is true.
He is old.
I mean...
he's dead now, but...
Yes.
He was born a long time ago is what I meant.
Yes.
They put his body on ice in case anyone found a cure for death.
Oh, I did not know that, actually.
He's one of the few people that put on ice for it.
Is that why they have Disney on Ice? Just kidding.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'll just go ahead and get into it then. So, this is the story of Walter Elias Disney, who was born on December 5th, 1901.
Hey, that's Alira's birthday.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's our niece, Alira. So, the reason I chose this topic to talk about was actually a suggested story from one of our listeners.
Nice.
And
thanks,
the
listener.
the reason that they suggested it is because this January is the 100-year anniversary of the Walt Disney Studios.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. So he was born on December 5th, 1901. His parents were Elias and Flora. He had 4 siblings. 3 of them were his older brothers, Herbert, Raymond, and Roy. Nice. And then he had a younger sister named Ruth. So Walter was born in Chicago, Illinois, but when he was 4, his family moved to Missouri to a town called Marceline, which is where he spent most of his childhood and where he first found his interest in art.
Marceline, Missouri.
Mm-hmm. So...
Never heard of it.
Well, now you have. So, when he was a young boy, so in Marceline, they lived on a farm. It was like a family farm. That's where he, found his interest in drawing and coloring and, watercolors and everything. And he was even paid by a neighbor to draw a picture of their horse.
Wow.
So he got really into that and would sell his pieces to neighbors and family members like a little entrepreneur. And then he would even practice drawing the comic strips in the family newspaper that they would get each week.
Cool.
Yeah, so
that's one way to do it.
Yeah. So in 1911, when he was 10, they moved to Kansas City, which is where he developed his love for trains. His uncle, Mike Martin, was a train engineer who worked the route between Fort Madison, Iowa, and Marceline. Later, Disney would work a summer job with the railroad, selling snacks and newspapers to travelers. And that was something I never knew about Disney, was that he really liked trains, but it's just kind of cool. Trains are interesting.
Trains are interesting. I mean, in that new Disney intro thing, they have the train in the background. And
oh, yeah. I didn't
that makes
think
sense.
about that.
And they have a lot of Disney-themed trains and stuff.
Yeah. I guess it makes a lot of sense. That was something I never knew, really, about him, or at least never thought about.
Cool. Trains.
Yeah, trains.
I like trains.
That's really the only mention of it. Just kind of fun thing. Okay, so Kansas City is also where Walter met his friend Walter Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer's family had a huge love for the theater, and that's where they introduced Disney to the world of motion picture.
Ooh.
Was his friend Walter Pfeiffer.
Good.
And
Walter and Walter.
Yeah, they became
Best
such
buds.
good friends that for a while he would spend like every waking moment at their house. Those kind of friends.
Okay,
So,
I got you.
around this time, so this was, Walter was going into his teen years and everything. And his dad purchased a couple newspaper routes with like the Kansas City Times and things like that. And so Walter and his brother Roy would deliver papers every morning starting at 4:30 and then deliver the second set of papers in the evening after school.
Nice.
And they did that for about 6 years.
Wow.
And so this went into while Walter was in high school. During high school, he joined the school paper, and he became the designated cartoonist.
Ooh.
And would draw cartoons about the war that was going on. It was World War One.
Oh, right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then on the weekends, he would attend the local community college, and he took cartooning classes. So he was really like dedicated to this at a very young age.
Yeah, in high school, I think, if I'm not mistaken, our teacher actually showed us during like the World War One segment images that looked like Disney, and she's like, "Any guesses who this is?" And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that happened.
Yeah.
Unless I'm making it up, but no, I'm pretty sure it happened.
Yeah, no, he a lot of his stuff actually got published, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so unfortunately though, Disney ended up dropping out of school because the paper route really like hindered his sleep schedule, and he would fall asleep in classes a lot. And during this time, like, school wasn't as big of a deal as it is today, so he just ended up dropping out. And he actually, at the age of 16, he tried to join the U.S. Army, but he was rejected for being so young. So So what he did is he actually forged his birth certificate and then joined the Red Cross instead.
Oh.
Yeah. Then he spent a few months working as the Red Cross until they shipped him over to France, where he drove an ambulance for a year. And there, while he was driving the ambulance just for some decoration and, when things were slow, he would doodle cartoons on the side of the ambulance.
That's fun.
And those were what got published. And those were published in the U.S. Army newspaper, The Stars and Stripes.
Cool.
When he was 17 or 18 at the time.
Starting young.
Yeah.
What were you doing when you were 17?
Not
I'm just
bad.
kidding.
After his year in France, he returned to Kansas City in October of 1919. His brother Roy helped him get a job at the Pesman Rubin Commercial Art Studio as an apprentice, and he there would draw illustrations for advertising, theater programs, and catalogs. That's where he met fellow artist Ub Iwerks. So in January 1920, the newspaper started to decline that he and Ub worked at, and so Disney was laid off, and then Disney and Ub actually tried to create their own company as like freelance commercial artists, but unfortunately that didn't really make it off of the ground, so they both began to work at the Kansas City Ad Company.
Okay.
So Disney became interested in animation. He still preferred like drawn cartoons. He drew cartoons such as Mutt and Jeff and Coco the Clown. And in his free time, though, he borrowed a camera and would practice animation at his home.
Nice.
So not like while he was working, just kind of playing around with it.
Mm-hmm.
Later in 1920, he decided to own his own animation studio. So from the ad company, he recruited Fred Harmon as his first employee. And Disney and Harmon made a deal with the local Kansas City theater to screen their cartoons, which they called Laugh-O-Grams.
Okay.
Cute, huh?
That's cute.
The cartoons were hugely popular, and Disney was able to acquire his own studio, which he bestowed the same name, Laugh-O-Grams. They did a series of 7-minute fairy tales that combined both live-action animation, which they called... tales that combined both live-action and animation. Which they called Alice in Cartoonland.
Oh, like Alice in Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay.
That's where that got its start.
It's kind of fun to think about, because like back then they didn't have all the technology and everything that we have today to do animations and stuff like that. So a lot of the time they had to draw frame by frame.
Yeah.
Everything. So it just gives you a whole different appreciation as to how that actually started out.
Yeah, well, and the articles that I read talk a lot about the types of animation that they used, and they were just really starting to get into the kind where like they do frame by frame using a computer, and apparently that was really expensive to do.
I believe
so the cheaper way, but also like the more taxing way, was to draw it frame by frame.
Gotcha.
And so Walt Disney really enjoyed that type of animation work because, you know, he got to do it literally hands-on.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't very good in like long-term production because it would take so long to do. In 1923, Laugh-O-Grams declared bankruptcy.
Oh,
Yeah.
sad day.
But 1923 was how many years ago?
Almost 100.
So the 100-year anniversary of Disney is coming up.
Ooh.
So a little foreshadowing. Disney, so Walter moved to Hollywood in July 1923 at 21 years old to be with his brother Roy. He hoped to become a live-action film director. Walter and Roy started the Disney Brothers studio to produce their films. Then he convinced Ub to relocate from Kansas City to Hollywood.
So, was his brother Roy an actor or something?
No,
Or...
Roy was just kind of similarly into animation and things like
Gotcha.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Roy actually, like, he's a big part of the company, even though, like, Disney was really the founder. Roy helped him build it from the ground up.
Nice.
So.
Good job, Roy.
Yeah, and actually,
The unsung heroes.
Right. Per Roy's request, they actually changed the name of the company to Walt Disney Studios. So
he was kind of like, you take all the credit almost, but...
Pretty much, yeah. Well, and I've heard, like, controversy about how much work Ub did, and everybody's like, Ub should have gotten the credit. And it's like, it's not like he didn't. They just named it Walt Disney Studios, you know? And so, of course, the person with the name is going to get the initial credit. But Walt never claimed to be the only person to do this. He was very much, like, part of a group thing, and he knew that.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to call the company Ub... iWorks?
iWorks, yeah. Ub iWorks.
We're not going to call it Ub iWorks. That's
not it's hard to pronounce. Like,
yeah.
I'm even struggling.
Walt Disney just rolls off the tongue easier.
Yeah. And yeah, so let's see. So that happened in 1923. So that's why in 2023, I'm confusing myself, is the 100-year anniversary.
You're doing great, sweetie.
So later that year, 1923, Walt Disney sold the rights of his animation Alice in Cartoon Land to Margaret J. Winkler. In October, they signed a contract with her for 6 Alice comedies with an option for 2 further series of 6 episodes each. So kind of cool that they have someone. So Margaret was already like a film producer, so they kind of are getting their big start, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They had already been doing work, obviously, but now they've signed a contract with someone who's like, okay, let's make this happen and make it more of a long-term thing. So that was pretty fun.
And here we are 100 years later.
Yeah, I mean, there was still a lot of ups and downs in between, so we'll talk about that. And actually, a little side note. In 1925, Disney hired an ink and paint artist named Lillian Bounds. Lillian and Walter began dating and were married just a few short months later. Yeah, they were married in Idaho. Fun fact.
Oh, what's that? I'm just kidding.
So Disney and Lillian had 2 children. They had Diane Disney Miller, who was born in 1933. She was the only biological child of them. They also adopted their daughter Sharon Disney Lund shortly after her birth in 1936.
Nice. So they only had 2 kids?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They do have several grandchildren and great-grandchildren, but I didn't get into those details because we're here to talk about Walt.
Yep.
So, in 1926, Winkler's role in the distribution of the Alice series had been handed over to her husband, the film producer Charles Mintz. The relationship between Mintz and Walt Disney was sometimes kind of strained. There was a little bit of like a power struggle going on because basically Disney wanted to expand and grow different types of animation, whereas Mintz wanted new material to be distributed using the animation that they already had. Okay. And so Walter wanted more of that creative freedom, whereas Mintz was really trying to just like capitalize.
Sure. And probably save money too at the same time.
Yeah, so actually it got to a point where Mintz wanted more material, and so Disney and Ub, they created Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, a Disney character that they wanted to be peppy, alert, saucy, and venturesome, keeping him also neat and trim. That was the description that Walt had given him.
Cool.
But in February of 1928, Disney wanted like more pay for the Oswald series because it was pretty popular, whereas Mintz wanted to like actually decrease his pay.
Okay.
So yeah, like I said, power struggle a little bit.
Mints almost sounds like mitts.
Yeah, it does a little bit, right?
How do you spell it? Is it Mints?
TZ.
TZ. Okay.
Yeah. So
sounds German.
it might be, actually.
I'm just kidding. I have no clue. We have trouble pronouncing German names as it is. So.
Yeah. So Mintz threatened to start his own studio and produce the series himself if Disney refused to accept the reductions of pay, whereas Disney declined the ultimatum and lost most of his animation staff due to that. The only person that stayed with him was Ub.
Oh, good job, Ub.
Yeah. So to replace the Oswald series, Walt and Ub developed Mickey Mouse, inspired by a pet mouse that Disney adopted while working in his Laugh-O-Gram studio. Disney originally chose the name Mortimer Mouse for him, but Lillian, his wife, thought it was too pompous.
Fair. Yeah, I agree. Mickey sounds good.
Yeah, and suggested Mickey instead. So, Ub revised Disney's provisional sketch to make the character easier to animate. And so this is kind of where the controversy comes in, is Ub technically is the one that created Mickey. Mm-hmm. The Mickey that we see and love today. It was Disney's idea, but the animation was really put together by Ub. Walt, he actually began to distance himself from the animation process during this time, but he voiced Mickey Mouse until 1947.
Oh, cool.
Which that I never knew.
So he did the high-pitched...
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, that was Walt Disney. In the words of one Disney employee, Ub designed Mickey's physical appearance, but Walt gave him his soul. Yeah.
Wow.
I can understand the controversy of it, but I also feel like they both had equal...
For sure.
Contribution. Mm-hmm. It's just, whose hand held the pen type of thing.
I mean, that happens tons today as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think about it, people, like architects, I guess, of specific things are different from the actual, like, construction of... I mean, buildings, for example, like architects, they don't really have much to do as far as the contracting stuff goes, but,
Yeah.
I don't know that for sure, but...
How often do freelancers... do all of the work, right?
That's true, yeah.
So it's like I could draw a stick figure and be like, this is like the idea of what I want. You turn it into a masterpiece and someone else will draw it for me.
Yes.
But then I get the credit because I outsourced.
There's like a difference between like artistic creativity and engineering creativity, that kind of stuff.
Well, and I think the two of them at this point, they were partners,
Yeah.
They had been working together for so long. I don't think it was a matter of who stole whose work. I think it was really like this was for Walt Disney Productions for their studio, and I don't think Ub ever really had a bad feeling about it. I don't know.
For sure.
But yeah, in the media today, if you were to Google it, you could find a little bit of fun opinions because everybody likes to cancel each other. So
True.
Yeah. All right, so moving on. Mickey Mouse first appeared in May 1928 as a single test screening, but it failed to find a distributor. Following the 1927 sensation The Jazz Singer, Disney used synchronized sound on another short called Steamboat Willie to create the first post-produced sound cartoon.
Is that where the whistling Mickey is? Right there?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So that image that we all see that's at the beginning of movies and stuff like that, that is the original. That's the very first appearance of Mickey Mouse.
Nice. Mm-hmm. No wonder it's such a staple.
Yeah. After the animation was complete, Disney signed a contract with the former executive of Universal Pictures, Pat Powers, who became the new distributor for Disney's early sound cartoons, which soon became very popular. To improve the quality of the sound, Disney hired a professional composer and arranger, Carl Stalling. So those names are important for just a moment. Stalling suggested the series Silly Symphony to be developed, which provided stories through the use of music. At this time, he also hired several local artists, some of whom stayed with the company as core animators later on.
Cool.
And this group of animators, they actually became known as the 9 Old Men. So that's kind of fun. And both the Mickey Mouse and Silly Symphony series were successful, but Disney and his brother Roy felt that they were not receiving their rightful share of the profits from Powers. In 1930, Disney tried to trim costs from the process by urging UB to abandon the practice of animating every separate cell in favor of the more efficient technique of drawing key poses and then letting lower paid assistants sketch the in-between poses. So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
He was using a lot of like the like animation techniques where you design each individual what's the word I'm looking for? Frame?
Yep.
But I guess, you know, they could outsource like we talked about. It's like, here's the main poses, you get us in between there. Which is like, how fun of a job would that be? Also a little stressful because you have to make it like perfect. But
yeah. I don't know. I think about it. I'm like, I don't know if I'd be into that. Because I'm not artistically inclined to begin with.
It'd be very tedious.
Yeah.
It'd be fun, though, to do that for Walt Disney.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Walt Disney asked Powers for an increase in payments for the cartoons. Powers refused and signed up to work for him. And then Stalling, the composer person, he resigned shortly after, thinking that if wasn't going to be involved, that Disney Studios would close because he was such a big role. During this time, Walter pretty much had like a nervous breakdown, which he blamed on Powers basically for like taking too much control over his life. So he and Lillian, his wife, took an extended holiday to Cuba.
Oh, nice.
And to Panama.
Oh.
The end. Just kidding. Yeah, cool. So...
I mean, yeah, I'd like to do that when I'm stressed out, too.
Let's go to Cuba.
And Panama.
Yeah. Basically, at this point, Walt Disney was on his own because he was no longer using Powers as a distributor. So the Disney Studios signed a contract with Columbia Pictures to distribute the Mickey Mouse cartoons. It became more popular, and then eventually it went international.
Nice. Disney
and his crew started to introduce cartoon stars like Pluto in 1930, Goofy in 1932, Donald Duck in 1934. All subsequent Silly Symphony cartoons were in color. He had a film called Flowers and Trees that was popular with audiences and won the inaugural Academy Award for Best Short Subject Cartoon at the 1932 ceremony.
Is that the one where the flowers and trees have faces and they dance a lot? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Those kind of creep me out.
Well, it won an award.
For most creepy animation?
No,
I'm just kidding.
So Disney had been nominated for another film category. He had been nominated for another film in that category, Mickey's Orphans, and received an honorary award for the creation of Mickey Mouse.
Cool.
Yeah.
Even though UB kind of I'm just kidding.
Yeah, even though he didn't actually do it.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, so in 1933, Walt Disney produced The Three Little Pigs, which became the most successful short animation of all time.
Wow.
As described by a media historian named Adrian Danks. The film won Disney another Academy Award in the short subject cartoon category. The film's success led to a further increase in the studio's staff, which numbered nearly 200 by the end of the year.
Nice.
So at this time, Disney realized the importance of using a lot of emotion. Like, what are you doing? Am I that boring?
No. Oh. I just want to put my mouth on it. Sorry, continue.
But yeah, so he recognized the importance of like emotionally gripping stories and like what the audience really wanted to see.
Yeah.
And so he invested in a storytelling department that was separate from animators. So like one would create the storyboard and the actual story, where then the other people would put it together. Gotcha. Which is usually what you see now in like these big animation studios, is they have separate teams for that because they want one to focus solely on like what is going to bring out the heart of the story, and then the other one is going to bring it to life.
Right.
So
that's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm very much, if this was me, I'm very much the I don't want to say mastermind because I don't consider myself a mastermind, but like the ideas man.
Yeah.
The creative
ideas man.
Yeah, because I mean, you know my dreams. My dreams are whack. And
Yeah,
a lot of my imagination stuff comes from my dreams, or vice versa. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not really.
No, I got you. I get you. I get you.
Yeah. So I would because I love coming up with stories and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
like
Well,
if I had the patience and time, I'd want to be an author because, and if it was still a thriving, what's the word?
business practice.
Yeah, then I'd probably consider it more, but I don't have the patience for it. Anyway.
Yeah, well, he created that department. Oh, let's see. So 1934, Disney became dissatisfied with producing cartoon shorts. He believed a feature-length cartoon would be more profitable. So the studio at the time began the 4-year production of, take a guess, first feature-length cartoon movie from Walt Disney. Once I say it, you're going to be like, oh my gosh.
Is it Mickey Mouse?
Well, no.
What is it?
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Based on the fairy tale.
That was the first one, really?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
The first movie. Mm-hmm.
cool.
When the news leaked that they were going to be starting this project, people really just made fun of him and said, this is going to make you bankrupt. They even started calling him, they started calling it Disney's Folly because they figured it would be like the fall of Disney. However, 4 years later, in 1937, Snow White premiered and earned high praise from critics and audiences, and the film became the most successful motion picture of 1938. And by May of 1939, its total gross was $6.5 million.
Dang.
And it made it the most successful sound film to date.
Wow.
Yeah. He won the honorary Academy Award for it, and the success of Snow White heralded one of the most productive eras for the studio. The Walt Disney Family Museum calls the following years, quote, the golden age of animation. So, big high for Disney, big middle finger to all those people that were like, this is going to be your folly.
$6.5 million.
Yeah.
Is that then money or now money?
Then.
Okay.
I didn't look up the translation for today, but yeah.
It'd be a lot.
At the time, it
inflation.
was the most successful. So,
Cool.
this part gets a little depressing because I think he rode on this high and got a little cocky.
As you do.
In 1939, they set up a new campus for Walt Disney Animation Studios in Burbank. In 1941, there was a setback for the company that occurred when the animators went on strike.
Oh, no.
Many of the animators resigned, and it took several years for the company to fully recover from it. And also in 1941, they released Dumbo, and then the U.S. entered World War II.
So Dumbo was the second full feature cartoon film?
No, it wasn't. I have a list of them. The next ones were actually Pinocchio and Fantasia, which I'll talk about in just a second.
Fantasia was going to be my second guess for the first one. Like, I'm pretty sure that's more recent, but...
Yeah, no, that one was a few years later. So, Snow White premiered in 1937. Pinocchio and Fantasia both came out in 1940.
Okay.
So, but we're going to talk about the war for a second. So, in 41 is when the war happened, right after Dumbo was released. And so, Disney actually formed the Walt Disney Training Films Unit within the company to produce instruction films for the military. So he produced films called 4 Methods of Flush Riveting and Aircraft Production Methods. So he met with the Secretary of the Treasury, and he actually produced shorts with Donald Duck to promote war bonds.
Okay.
I never knew about that. I thought that was actually hilarious. He also produced several propaganda productions, including shorts such as... I don't know why I wrote this down because I don't know how to pronounce it. Der Führer's Face? Whatever. Mm-hmm. Which also won an Academy Award. And then the 1943 feature film Victory Through Air Power. And I never knew that he was so involved in making productions for war. But it makes sense of the times. You know, he's trying to just be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So...
And like, he was successful, so I mean, like, why not?
Yeah.
By the way, before you continue, I looked up $6.5 million in 1938. and it is equivalent to $125,848,125. Imagine having that in your pocket.
That's awesome. And he only had, like, what, 200 employees?
Sure. I don't know. You have the notes, not me. But yeah, he was, they did it a lot back in the day. Because, again, going back to my high school U.S. history class and everything, because I know so much about U.S. history. Not actually. But they did a lot of propaganda and advertisement with cartoons because that's what the people appealed to. Like, it was different and...
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember one of these other ones that my teacher showed us was like the Oscar Mayer Wiener.
Oscar Mayer?
What did I say?
Minor.
Oh, yeah. Oscar Mayer Wiener. Those commercials.
Yeah.
And everything. And those were all cartoonized, animated.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did that a lot back then for just more appeal, I guess.
Yeah, true. Good point. So, he did all those military films. Those generated only enough revenue to cover the costs of making them. And this is what I mean by he got a little cocky, because he produced the feature film Bambi, which underperformed on its release, and then he actually lost $200,000 at the box office from it. So,
that's rough.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money to lose.
On top of that, he had low earnings from Pinocchio and Fantasia, and the company had debts of $4 million.
Oof.
Yeah. He actually had a meeting with the Bank of America, who he was banking with, to discuss the future of the company. And the bank's chairman at the time and founder, he told his executives, quote, "I have been watching the Disney's pictures quite closely because I knew you were lending them money far above the financial risk. They're good this year, they're good next year, and they're good the year after. You have to relax and give them the time to market their product." So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
the chairman and founder was rooting for him.
Yeah, because usually it's the opposite, especially nowadays. It's like, no.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the chairman, it sounds like they didn't really want to keep lending to him, but the founder was like, no, it's all good. It'll be fine. So Disney produced more than 100 feature films. His first full-length animation film was Snow White, like we said. The last major success that he produced himself was the motion pictures Mary Poppins, which came out in 1964.
With Julia Andrews? Nice.
And it was a mix of live action and animation.
Cool.
A few of Disney's most famous movies included Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, Bambi, Cinderella, Treasure Island, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp, Sleeping Beauty, and 101 Dalmatians.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so then a lot of the other movies that we see from past 1964, he was not alive when those were produced.
Gotcha.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. I know that for everyone listening, we were only gone a few seconds, but for us, it has been 8 hours.
Yeah, accurate. Harper decided to wake up early from her nap.
Thanks to our dogs.
Thanks to our dogs. They were howling outside and made a lot of noise. On top of that, I think she had a bad dream because she was crying for a little bit afterwards as well. Or maybe her tummy was upset. I don't know. Either one.
Yeah.
But yeah, she didn't want to go back to sleep, so we just decided to postpone our recording until now.
Yeah, so it's been several hours. But we should be good. Do you need a recap?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick up where we left off. We don't have a ton left, so it's just going to be a little quick ending.
Yes.
Okay, so... Alright, so Walt Disney. He was one of the first people to use television as an entertainment medium, which is pretty cool. So he had a couple extremely popular children's shows, such as Zorro and Davy Crockett.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that Zorro was a TV show.
We should watch it.
The movie. Yeah, let's do it.
And Davy Crockett.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Zora would be interesting, but I never really got into Davy Crockett.
Fair. And then there was also the Mickey Mouse Club, which that and like a variety of other shows that had teenagers cast that were known as the Mouseketeers.
Mouseketeers.
So,
That's fun. We just watched the Three Musketeers today with Harper.
The Three Mouseketeers.
Well, it was Musketeers. It's the Disney with it's spelled Musketeers.
Musketeers. Oh, yeah. So it's like the Donald, Goofy, and
that one, and Mickey.
The animated one.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah,
it was interesting.
Okay, so Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color was a popular Sunday night show, which Disney used to begin promoting his new theme park.
Smart. Advertise it.
So for several years, Disney had been considering building a theme park, and that first came to his mind when he visited the Griffith Park in Los Angeles with his daughters. His dream was that he wanted it to be a clean, unspoiled park where both children and their parents could have fun.
Nice.
Yeah, sounds like a good time, right?
Yeah, we should go.
Okay. In March of 1952, he received zoning permission to build a theme park in Burbank near the Disney Studios. However, he thought that the site was too small for like what he wanted, and so he bought a larger plot in Anaheim that was 35 miles away from the studio. And then he also formed the WED Enterprises, which is now the Walt Disney Imagineering.
Cool.
And he used his own money to fund a group of designers and animators to work on the plans. And the people that were involved in this became known as the Imagineers.
Nice. That's a catchy name.
Yeah. I think it's cute.
Yeah.
It's like, what does your dad do for work? He's an Imagineer.
Right. Bring your parent to school day, whatever that's called.
Yeah.
I never had that. I don't think. Maybe I did. Sorry, parents, if you did. I don't remember.
I think that's cute.
Yeah.
I also like that, a lot of the things that you think about with Disney is they try to make it like a magical experience for everyone. Like you said, he wanted it to be a place where both children and parents could have fun.
Mm-hmm.
But he also made it like that for the workers as best as he could. Like by literally giving them titles such as Imagineer.
Yeah.
Like how fun is that they just make it like, I don't know, magical.
That's kind of cool.
In mid 1954, Disney sent his Imagineers to every this is awesome, to every amusement park in the United States to analyze what worked and what pitfalls or problems there were in various locations, and incorporated their findings into his design.
I mean, as far as job, what do you call it?
Opportunities, jobs.
No, like assignments, job assignments. Yeah. As far as job assignments go, that's not a terrible one.
Right.
If I was getting paid to go to amusement parks, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
It's like, honey, I have to travel for work this summer. Oh, really? Where are you going? To
Universal
ride
Studios.
Roller coasters in every state in America.
Yep.
That would be so fun.
That would be a lot of fun.
But it's also really smart on Walt's part, because he literally was comparing and contrasting to every amusement park in America. Mm-hmm. Like how cool is that? And like a great way to figure out what is going to work, because if you want to be the best, you have to know your competition.
Truth. Smart thinking on his part. Mm-hmm. He was the original Imagineer.
Yeah, there you go. So they started construction work in July of 1954, and then July 17th, 1955, so 1 year later, Disneyland theme park was opened. It was a $17 million project, and the opening ceremony was broadcast on ABC, which reached 70 million viewers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Right?
Live TV?
Yeah.
70 million.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah, it was a big, big deal. The park was designed as a series of themed lands linked by a central Main Street USA. That Main Street USA was designed to be a replica of the Main Street in his hometown of Marceline that he grew up in. The connected themed areas were Adventureland, Frontierland, Fantasyland, and Tomorrowland.
Fun.
The park also contained a narrow gauge Disneyland railroad that linked the lands. Around the outside of the park was a high berm to separate the park from the outside world.
A what?
Berm.
What's that?
I'm assuming like a wall.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
But, you know, he wanted, when you walk into Disney, he wanted it to be completely different from what you were used to. And he wanted it to be a place that you enter and transform into a whole new world, essentially.
That's smart thinking as well. Because, I mean, when did we go to Disney World? It's a couple years ago, a few years ago.
Yeah, we went a few years ago.
And that was cool because didn't you have to ride a monorail like across the water? That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's like very isolated from the world, you know.
Yeah, from most things.
Place to kind of
It's
get away from.
It's definitely unique.
Yes.
Very unique.
Yes.
And awesome. Okay, so the day of the opening, there were a few mishaps that happened. One of them being that there was a distribution of thousands of counterfeit invitations. So a lot of people were scammed
Yeah.
thinking that they were going to go.
I mean, that's not really on them though, but.
Yeah. But despite that, Disneyland became a site known as a place where children and their families could explore, enjoy rides, and meet the Disney characters. So cool. Despite some of the things that happened on the first day, like, it still ended up being super successful and is still standing today.
Let's go.
Yeah. Let's go ride some rides, meet some characters.
Okay, let's be the characters. Let's show up in costume and see if we can confuse anyone.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Sign some autographs. Okay, so within a few years of Disneyland's 1955 opening, Walt Disney began plans for a new theme park to develop experimental prototype community of tomorrow, or Epcot, in Florida.
Epcot.
Unfortunately, Disney's plans for the futuristic city of Epcot never came to fruition. Disney had unfortunately been a smoker for most of his life, and as a result was diagnosed with lung cancer in 1966. He died December 15th, 1966, at the age of 65. He was cremated, and his ashes are held at the Forest Lawn Cemetery in Los Angeles.
Wait, he was cremated?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So not held on ice.
So he's not held on ice.
I guess not.
I've been living a lie.
Maybe they just say he's been cremated.
Maybe. I'll have to look it up.
I think I've heard that before, but...
It could be a very wild theory.
Right.
But.
So, the construction for Epcot was going on during his death, so, like, it started before he died. And then his brother, Roy, deferred his retirement to take control of the Disney companies. So he continued to work on it, but he did change the focus of the project from a town, because that's kind of like what he saw. He wanted it to be like this whole town, essentially, like a futuristic world. But he turned it more into an attraction, so
okay,
like a theme park. At the inauguration in 1971, Roy dedicated Walt Disney World to his brother.
Aww.
Walt Disney World expanded with the opening of Epcot Center in 1982. Walt Disney's vision of a functional city was replaced by a park more akin to a permanent World's Fair. In 2009, the Walt Disney Family Museum, which was designed by his daughter and his grandson, was opened in San Francisco. Thousands of artifacts from Disney's life and career are on display, including numerous awards that he received. The original site had attendance up and downs over the years.
So people were going to San Francisco to see the museum?
Yeah.
And then sometimes what?
Yeah, I didn't expand on that at all. It's just a random... I don't know. I confuse myself. It's fine.
Well, I mean, why would you go to a boring museum when you can go to Disneyland?
Right. I guess that makes sense. Thanks for saving me there.
You're welcome.
So Disneyland has expanded its rides over time and branched out globally with Walt Disney World near Orlando, Florida, and parks in Tokyo, Paris, Hong Kong, and Shanghai.
Nice.
And then there's the sister property, California Adventure, which opened in Los Angeles in 2001.
Cool. You know, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was Paris. I don't know. One of the Disneyland, they had like a cow with the spot, like the cow had a spot of the Mickey Mouse head. And I think that's where they got the like the idea for it, because it kind of looked like a mouse head or a Mickey Mouse head. I don't know. I'll have to look into that a little bit more, but
like a real life cow had a Disney
Yes.
Disney Mickey Mouse head
yes,
as a spot.
as a spot, yeah.
That's
And I think that's
fun.
where they got the logo, or maybe it was just maybe the logo was determined before, and then they found that on the cow, and it was a huge, like a mascot for a bit.
Gotcha.
I'll have to look it up
Well, that's
because
kind of cool.
yeah.
I actually went to Disneyland in Paris.
Did you
Mm-hmm.
when you were living in England?
Yeah. Yep.
That's kind of cool.
So I've been to Disneyland California, Disneyland Paris, and then now Disney World,
Cool.
which is the most recent.
Yeah.
I don't know which one this was, but I distinctly remember I went on the Indiana Jones ride,
Mm-hmm.
and I got really freaked out at the part where the ball is rolling towards you.
Yeah.
But then the ride like dips, and so obviously you don't get crushed by a giant ball. But I remember being super scared and like burying my head, and I had my head buried and my hands on the rail, and my head was buried, and I was looking like you could still see the ground as we were going, and then all of a sudden we were passing through this area that had a ton of snakes, and then I got like equally freaked out, but I didn't want to look up because I was afraid of what I was gonna see.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember which one that was at. And then I remember watching a parade, and they had this giant float with a big bubble, and in the bubble was Ariel sitting on a rock, like she was under the water with this bubble protecting her.
That's fun.
And then another memory I have is we were watching the parade, and then Turk from Tarzan came up and gave my mom a hug,
Oh.
as if they were best buds. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever, and I wrote it in my diary. Good
You had a
times.
diary?
Uh-huh.
Can we read it?
No. I was in like first grade.
Read it on air.
I'm pretty sure that was the one in California, because I remember writing it in my diary that I had in the first grade, and we lived in California during the time.
Okay.
So that would make sense.
That would make sense.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to talk about some of the awards that he got, because he got a lot
Cool.
of awards.
Yeah, I believe it.
So, Disney received 59 Academy Award nominations, including 22 awards. He was nominated for 3 Golden Globe Awards. He did not win, but he was presented with 2 Special Achievement Awards for Bambi and the Living Desert, and the Cecil B. DeMille Award. I don't know what that is, but that sounds cool. He received 4 Emmy Award nominations, winning once for Best Producer for the Disneyland television series. Several of his films are included in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as, quote, culturally, historically, or ethically significant, including Steamboat Willie, The Three Little Pigs, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Fantasia, Pinocchio, Bambi, Dumbo, and Mary Poppins.
Cool.
In 1998, the American Film Institute published a list of the 100 greatest American films according to the industry experts. This list included Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs at number 49 and Fantasia at 58.
Nice.
In 1960, Disney was introduced to the Hollywood Walk of Fame with 2 stars, one for motion pictures and the other for his television work. Mickey Mouse was given his own star for motion pictures in 1978. Disney was also inducted into the Television Hall of Fame in 1986, the California Hall of Fame in December of 2006, and was the inaugural recipient of a star on the Anaheim Walk of Stars in 2014. All right.
It's a lot of stuff.
The Walt Disney Family Museum records that he, quote, along with other members of his staff, received more than 950 honors and citations from throughout the world, end quote. He was made the Cavalier of the French Legion d'Honneur in 1935, and in 1952 he was awarded the country's highest artistic decoration, the Officer d'Académie.
I mean, wow. That's a lot of stuff that he got.
There's more.
Oh, jeez.
The other awards include Thailand's Order of the Crown, Germany's Order of the Merit, Brazil's Order of the Southern Cross, the Mexico's Order of Aztec Eagle, and in the United States he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom on September 14th, 1964, and on May 24th, 1968 he was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal.
What year did he die?
He died in 66.
Okay, so he's still getting awards even
December.
after he died.
Long after. Like, he was getting stuff up until, like, 2014.
If you want to leave your mark on the world, do something amazing.
Like Walt Disney.
Like Walt Disney.
He received the Showman of the World Award from the National Association of Theater Owners, and in 1955, the National Audubon Society awarded Disney its highest honor, the Audubon Medal, for promoting the appreciation and understanding of nature through his true life adventures nature film. And then, last but not least, a minor planet discovered in 1980 by astronomer Ludmila Karakincha
Sure, sounds great.
was named 4017 Disneya.
After Disney?
Mm-hmm.
What about Pluto? That was discovered
Messed
before.
up, man. That was messed up. Just kidding. And he was also awarded honorary degrees from Harvard, Yale, the University of Southern California, and the University of California, Los Angeles. The end.
The end.
And that is the incredible story of our good friend Walter Elias Disney.
Wed.
These nuts. I'm deleting that.
No, leave it in.
Okay. What were you saying?
Cool. About what?
You sounded like you were going to say something.
No, I don't remember now.
No, but he did get so many awards, and I'm pretty sure more than half of them were after he'd already died.
Yeah.
Are you looking up to see if he was on ice?
No. Do you want me to?
No, it's okay. Okay, so what are your thoughts? Tell me.
I mean, what a life.
Mm-hmm.
But that just goes to show, like, you know, sometimes people fail at things, but they have a dream and they go and live it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one thing I really like about his story, I think it's super inspiring just in general, but the fact that there were so many ups and downs, and like huge ups and then huge downs, you know, like for example, Snow White, like that was, you know, we talked about that for a minute. It was one of the best movies of all time at the time.
Yes.
You know, and then a few years later, most of his staff quit and had a strike and walked out on him, and the banks were like, we shouldn't be funding him anymore.
Yeah. But if they were so successful with one thing, and like you did say, like, you know, cockiness can get in the way of, you know, success and everything. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like, he was still successful. Like, this was a good idea. He had more similar ideas that would have gone probably equally as good if he didn't have writers quit and animators quit. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
Well, you just think about how many people in life become, quote, one-hit wonders because of things like that. Like, they have something really successful happen, and then when they don't see that equal success immediately after, they get discouraged and walk away. Mm-hmm. And that's something that he never did, which is why, you know, his story is so cool. It's so inspiring and so well known. You know, people all over the world know who Walt Disney is.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a well-known name.
Yeah, and like, you know, he deserved it because he really just never gave up. And it's something cool to think too, that it's something that everything about this are things that he was passionate about from a very young age, starting with just drawing, you know. Yeah.
So if there's a childhood dream that any of you have ever had, go ahead and pursue it, unless it doesn't interest you anymore.
Yeah. What Myles said.
Like, you still want to be an astronaut? Go ahead. I'm just kidding.
I wanted to be an astronaut for 2 seconds, and then I realized that you have to actually go to space.
Yeah. I mean, you could be like an astrophysicist and stay in a fun little office and look at stars.
And do math.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
Fair enough.
My dream job is to be a podcaster. Hey, I'm living my dream.
Hey.
Except for that wasn't a dream until like a month before this actually started, so.
That was a few months.
Okay, a few months.
You've had this idea for a while.
That's true. Pursuing my dreams.
And look, it's coming into fruition.
It is.
And we have listeners in officially 2 countries.
Hey, we totally do.
Yeah.
And a lot of states.
17 now.
17
We have one in Washington, I think was a new one.
Woohoo! Yay, thanks Washington for giving us a listener.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Tell your
to
friends
our,
in Canada. I'm just kidding.
seriously. I was going to say, to all of our friends in Montana, we don't know who you are, but we love you.
Yes. Montana is our second highest percentage-wise state of listeners.
Yeah, which is kind of random, but hey, we are here for it, and we love you.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever been to Montana.
We need to go because we have a lot of fans there, apparently.
Yeah. We'll schedule a live tour. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so thanks everyone for listening. We really appreciate all the love and support that we've gotten, and our next episode will come out
Next Saturday.
That'll be our official release day, is Saturdays. And it'll be Myles' turn, so we get to hear a wonderful story from him. And then don't forget, we have a couple more listener stories coming up this year. So, oh no, just one more, because we only have December.
Yeah, just December left.
So
one more for the year.
if you want to be featured in next month's listener story, feel free to send in your personal stories, family stories, friend stories, whatever, to famdamilypodcast@gmail.com.
We already have one on the way, kind of.
We have so many.
We have
can't
so
even
many.
pick from.
Know
Next
that we're
day.
one of. No, one that we know of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But we would love to share your stories because we had so much fun doing the last listeners episode.
That
and
was a lot
that's
of
what
fun.
Makes this, fun, as we like to get to know people's crazy stories of things that happen.
True that.
And then learn about Walt Disney and pirates
And cowboys.
and Einstein.
Einstein. The bubble-headed genius.
What episode is this? 12?
This is 12, yeah.
Episode 12.
Yeah, technically 13, but technically 12 as well.
We're just gonna call it 12.
It is 12. It is titled as 12 because listener story is a completely different one.
Anywho, we should be done rambling and go to sleep.
Yes. Well, everyone, remember, surround yourself with tacos, not negativity.
Amen to that.